We are talking about working against racism, and we wanted to share with you some additional resources that are from the USCCB, United States Conference of Bishops. This is the Ad hoc Committee Against Racism. And we thought this was such a valuable resource for our show today, and wanted to share some of the resources with you. And they start off with this quote: "But racism still profoundly affects our culture, and it has no place in the Christian heart. This evil causes great harm to its victims, and it corrupts the souls of those who harbor racist or prejudicial thoughts. The persistence of the evil of racism is why we are writing this letter." Now, they've provided a very powerful letter called Open Wide Our Hearts. I have it here on this page. And so this is a resource that it's written like an essay. This is not a shiny publication in the sense that it's, full of colorful images and such. This is like an essay, and it is so powerful, defining what racism is, and going through and talking about different aspects, that we need to do justice. For a nation to be just, it must be a society that recognizes and respects the legitimate rights of individuals and peoples, and goes on to define that. I know if we don't take time to sort of delve into these topics, we might have an understanding of the first sentence. But the beautiful thing about this is it will take you deeper into helping to understand what they're saying, and help form your own understanding. And then they go in to talk about the different experiences of peoples who are, victims of racism, to some degree. So Native American experience, and I think we have the African American experience, and we even have the Hispanic experience. So this goes on and on. It's a very, very powerful resource. And again, we're providing you links to the website so that you can access that. Bishop Shelton Faber on the death of George Floyd, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes, sort of the experience in the United States of struggling with racism, and how this was a key moment that sparked significant change. So again, all very, very good resources. And you can click on the resources tab to see additional statements and letters, educational resources, parish resources if you're working in a parish, videos and articles. I really liked, I think it was under parish resources. When we went in, they've got bulletin inserts, prayer resources, just a wealth of information that can help you support your community in understanding and fighting racism. I think that's the big point we're trying to make today, is that we have to take action. And to take action, we have to have a better understanding of ourselves and how we view this, and ask questions. Ask questions to get a better understanding of why I might be feeling this way, and to understand other people's experience. So really a fantastic website here full of resources. Look at this, K-8 educational resources, K-8 activities, Everyone Belongs, a children's storybook. What do you think about that, Deacon Matt?
I think first of all, it's a terrific committee. And even though it says ad hoc, it is a perpetual committee. It'll always be a part of the USCCB infrastructure, as it should be. It's a subset or subcommittee of the diversity and culture. It's a longer title, but that committee. That document, Open Wider Hearts, we're almost at the 5-year anniversary of that too. So I'm glad we're talking about that now in light of the first principle of Catholic social teaching, and also Juneteenth, which is coming up soon. I think for me in that document, the things that really stood out were the different saints that were these bright lights in these difficult experiences and times, who by surrendering to their faith and trying to advocate through that same faith, tried to affect real change, like Tia Bowman or Pierre Toussaint or any of these saints that have blessed us with their examples. And then one of the other sources, I'm sure you ran your cursor over it, that I really appreciate is, and it's probably in those K-8 resources, is how to have conversations with family members about racism. What a difficult topic to explore. So the USCCB does give some guidelines and some helps, and it's not going to take away all the awkwardness or the difficulty of having a conversation like that. Or for any subject that touches on the most personal aspects of our lives, the best things about us and the worst things about us. So think about how hard it is to talk about faith around the Thanksgiving table with extended family, people who
No
don't
kidding.
agree with you. I mean, it's just, it's things that cut to the core of who we are. Again, our better angels and our lesser angels of us. It's difficult to talk about. And that difficulty is never going to be completely taken care of. Like, there just has to be a willingness to enter into those conversations.
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm thinking about being raised in the South, and different parts of the country, may face different challenges or be more or less comfortable to a certain degree. Not that it's an easy thing to talk about, but certainly thinking about being raised in the South and, what I've witnessed from being a young child, still in the South today, and rethinking some things that I was taught, not by my parents teaching me to have a racist attitude. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying being taught by watching how people were treated, and looking at groups of people and trying to understand what is their worldview and where are they operating from, and then trying to make sense of that today, and in many ways trying to make corrections, because what seemed like commonplace and normal or acceptable is or has proved to not be acceptable. So, yeah, I think it can be challenging in many different ways, and location can have something to do with that for sure.
I was thinking, Steve, about how we had the privilege, here at Sadler, we have the privilege to have a lot of thought leaders come and talk to us as part of our lunch and learns. And I remember we had Father Stephen Bell, Apollos father, talk to us a couple of times about racism and speaking to it as a black priest operating in Berkeley at the time. I think he was on the campus there as the campus minister. But one of the things he said, I'll never forget, which is, he says, part of the problem with dealing with racism in our country is people just don't want to listen to each other. There's very little room for listening. And where there's a little room for listening, there's little room for understanding. And there's certainly little room for mercy and compassion, which was where ultimately he was going. And I think that's what a difficult challenge for everyone involved, to get to that level, to be merciful and compassionate, which isn't to forget things that have happened, wrongs that have happened. That's never been Jesus's MO when it comes to mercy, but to somehow allow mercy to begin to shape our view of people and ourselves in a way that leads us to treat each other more respectfully, because we see the equality in each of us. Mercy is like a level set, because, and here's a great phrase, I know you've heard this before, there but for the grace of God go I. We're all capable of incredibly divine things and incredibly hellish things. That's just the nature of the human being. So mercy reminds us of that, and it level sets and says, I could be that person. So I won't forget that when he said, we're just not listening. And if you can't listen, you can't understand. You can't understand, you can't be merciful.
Yeah, but it all comes back to, our faith. And like you're saying, but by the grace of God, we have to continue to lean on, in a positive way, lean on our faith, and like you said, be open to others, see others, and try to understand their experience. Listening, mentioning listening takes me back to our series on the Synod, and how important it is as a church. We're trying to listen to all people concerning all aspects of life. And so seeing people, understanding through listening, enables us to be merciful, like you're saying, and it enables us to take action, to move forward, to do something about it. So it's funny how it all comes together,
Yeah, it's providential.
Definitely providential.